Now, a few years ago, the idea of an airport in the Thames Estuary seemed high in the sky, and yet within a matter of weeks, the government is expected to announce a formal consultation looking at not one, but three different sets of plans. The proposal for an airport on the Isle of Grain by the architect Sir Norman Foster, which was unveiled last year, will now be looked at alongside expansion ideas for existing airports and an alternative in the estuary dubbed Boris Island. For tonight's special report, our environment correspondent Yvette Austin looks at why some people fear that their village will disappear and the wildlife will vanish.
At first sight, you might think it's a dull, muddy, unproductive expanse of wasteland, but look closer and the North Kent marshes are a habitat rich in wildlife, the last remaining expanse of wilderness in the southeast, and it's under threat. An airport out in the Thames Estuary or an airport on the Isle of Grain. Conservationists argue either would destroy this unique haven.
The site's been designated for its international importance, so we've got about 12 species of bird, which the area is particularly noted for. One of these, for instance, is the avocet. This is a species which just 70 years ago was actually extinct as a breeding bird.
In all, more than 50 different species of waterfowl, waders, gulls and terns can be seen here, an estimated 380,000 birds in all. Experts think architect Norman Foster's grand plan for Grain is the most serious scheme and would mean the birds having to be moved on. They'd pose a danger to the planes. In 2009, a US Airways Airbus ditched into the Hudson River in New York after colliding with a flock of birds shortly after takeoff. All of the proposed runways stretch out to sea. We're in the Thames Estuary in shallow water. There's about 5 metres under here. But if Norman Foster's plan goes ahead, we wouldn't be floating on water at all. We'd be on tarmac at the end of the 4 runways, which would extend back onto Grain. And the wetland habitat, which the wildlife so enjoys, would be recreated elsewhere.
We know that this is an important place just by looking at the variety of life that is here. But to think that we know how to recreate that somewhere else, I mean, I just don't think it's possible, and any suggestion that it is, I think is irresponsible.
Legislation requires habitat to be created because the plan would damage internationally protected areas. A number of nature reserves are also close by. Boris Johnson's idea is further out in the Thames Estuary, but Lord Foster's proposal would be built directly on the salt marsh and mud flats, with rail links carving through more of the countryside. So it's far more than just bird life which could suffer. The underwater world is a fragile ecosystem that intertwines with the marshes and its mammals, like the endangered water vole and water shrew.
More salt marsh has been lost in this country than any type of habitat. So we're choosing to build a huge airport, destroying one of the last bits of wilderness we've got. So it's wrong. We need to stop destroying our wilderness, and we need to develop areas that have already been developed.
And in addition to the environmental cost would be the economic one.
Environmentally, it would be devastating for the area, but also the economic cost would be enormous. Building a new airport, you're talking 50, 80 billion pounds. And that's going to be adding, another 60, 80 pounds to every plane ticket. So it doesn't add up cents economically, devastating environmentally.
It's early days in this latest battle to save the North Kent marshes. Yvette Austin, BBC South East Today in the Thames Estuary.